What's up, everybody? Welcome. Thanks for joining us on kind of a late notice here on the live podcast the day after. But I hope everybody clicked on that bell on YouTube. You're subscribed. You guys know when we're going to join, and you're in the Discord so that we can let you know when we're going to do it. So thanks, everybody, for joining us on this Tuesday late afternoon. Well, at least for me, a little bit later for you over there, Craig. But welcome. Chargers got the big win on Monday night. It was obviously too late to do a live podcast. Nobody was staying up that late. I mean, we were, but just you guys weren't. And Craig, who's
I wasn't.
But they get the 20-9 win. They are now 2-0. They went on the road, beat the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday night pretty handedly, even though the score was kind of close, but not really. It just never felt like it really got going towards the end there. It just felt like the Raiders had nothing to go against the Chargers. But Chargers now 2-0. They have the division lead. Raiders and Broncos are now 1-1. They both lost this week. And Kansas City Chiefs lost as well. So that's a clean sweep of the division. So 0-2 Chiefs, 1-1 Broncos, 1-1 Raiders, 2-0 Chargers. They've got the Broncos coming up very soon. But let's talk about this one because it did feel like the Chargers kind of held a lead, got it late. Raiders just could not answer, and that defense tightened up. I think we normally start with offense. I'd like to start with defense today if you're okay with it.
No, it's perfectly fine. I think you would consider them actually collectively the MVPs of this game. So let's definitely start there.
Yeah. So for me, I feel like Derwin James is probably the name I want to talk about first because it felt like early in that game, he was setting a tone. Like he was so physical early in that game. And then late in that game, from the tip INT and everything else in between, getting double teamed on a pass rush and then having to chase Geno late on a fourth down. But let's talk about Derwin because, man, he had a game last night.
So earlier on Twitter yesterday, a few hours before the game, just had a revelation. And I posted it. I said something along the lines of it was going to be a statement game for Derwin. And I feel like last night qualified as such. Like you mentioned, he did a little bit of everything. He was Mr. Everything, from essentially setting up other plays or players by moving offensive linemen off the ball as a blitzer, like multiple of them, pushing guys back into the backfield like 3 and 4 yards. We're talking about men that outweigh him by, in some instances, 100+ pounds, which is insane to think. But he was doing that regularly throughout the night. If he wasn't making the play, he was muddying up run fits so that other guys could get in and make plays. You got the pass coverage, you got the open field stops, you name it, he did it. And yeah, at the end of the game, dude was gassed, but it's just basically it tells you everything you need to know about him. It's all out every game with Derwin. And when Khalil went down, you could tell he felt an extra sense of duty to go in there and just be the guy, be the leader on the defense. And it shined through in his play. And I think guys took their cue from him. And there were probably names in that game that people didn't realize stepped up, but I think a lot of that came from them kind of piggybacking off of the type of effort that Derwin gave. So yeah, first and foremost, absolutely want to shout him out, but there were multiple cats that played their behinds off last night.
Yeah, for sure. Again, man, that it really felt like early on, Derwin James wanted to put his imprint on this game, and he was so physical in the run game, as a defender when he was even when he was like against Brock Bowers, who, by the way, I had the number up for a second, but yeah, 5 catches, 38 yards. I know he was a little bit questionable going into this game, but you know, their leading receiver had 68 yards. He was awesome. But the play on that tipped interception where, you know, they needed a turnover late, the Raiders were kind of driving, they were in the getting close to the red zone, and Derwin played in phase with Jacoby Myers in the end zone, played the ball to its highest point, tipped it up in the air for a really easy just catch for Dante Jackson. And it was awesome. Not only like the simulated pressure early to kind of rattle Geno, but for Derwin to carry Myers up the seam like he did and to high point that ball while diving. It was a beautiful play. And it felt like it should have been obviously the nail in the coffin at that point. We had a little fumble go on, but we'll get into all that. But Derwin was an absolute monster. And when a leader like Khalil Mack goes down, you need other guys to step up, and that's when your leader's got to lead. And Derwin James, I mean, and you saw they kept cutting to him because they were talking about him a lot during the broadcast, and he was on the bench laughing. He was dapping up his teammates. I mean, he was up there inspiring cats. And so you love to see a guy like Derwin James, who, like starting to get towards the end of his career, so to speak, to still just show that, he's the best, if not one of the best safeties in the NFL still.
Yeah, so I get what you mean by that, but let's not talk about the end because I don't want to think about life without Derwin James on this defense. I'm not ready to
Oh,
prepare
no,
for
no,
that quite
no.
yet. No, I get what you're saying, but
Yeah.
he's got less time ahead of him, than behind him at this point, as a football player. But he doesn't look to be slowing down at all. And I can't help but think about this year and last year, Derwin James is compared to what he was during the Brandon Staley era. The guy didn't forget how to play football. He was just in a really bad system.
Mhm.
And just to be able to get this level of play from him now, just him reestablishing himself as one of the top safeties in the league. I mean, look at everything he does. He's asked to line up and play the big slot, be the big nickel, which allows some flexibility for the Chargers against the run as well, because you don't have that additional linebacker body, even though he is linebacker-ish size, but has better athleticism. He provides that coverage element that where you can lock down tight ends. You can use him as a blitzer. Everything that Derwin James is to this defense is, I mean, if a team could have one player like this, of course they would. I mean, that goes without saying, but you cannot stress how important he is to this Chargers defense. He's essentially the engine of it. And while he basically, sometimes people look at him as more of like, to me, he's not a coverage safety. Like he can cover, but he's someone that you absolutely want in the box, just being disruptive. Whether it is getting after the quarterback, you saw Geno Smith. He had Geno Smith on his horse after beating blocks, getting around the edge, running the hoop, being essentially relentless behind a guy that maybe he had no chance at getting after. But it's just a thought in your head of having a maniac like that chasing you around on the field that I'm sure affects your ability to get the ball off and stick with your play. But yeah, he did a really good job at getting Geno off of his spot. Again, in the run game, can't speak to that enough. And there's just something to say about a guy who you can always look to inspire, even when things aren't going great. Like the game went perfectly fine. Defensively, they played nearly a flawless game.
Mhm.
But when Khalil Mack goes out, that'll take the wind out of your sails. And Derwin just didn't allow it to happen. I mean, I believe I want to say post game when he was getting interviewed, reporter asked him, some questions about everything that was going on. He was asked about Khalil Mack, and he said, like, he went to Khalil, was asking him, "Hey, are you out?" And Khalil was like, "Hey, man, just go out and get it done." And he did exactly that. So he just picked
Mhm.
up the mantle and put the crown on and was the guy that he is. So I don't think you can heap enough praise on Derwin, because even when he's not the guy making the play, he ups the play of all the guys around him.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And one guy who I felt like fed off that Derwin James energy was Tarheeb Still
Hmm.
on Monday. I mean, he he feels like one of the best tacklers I've seen from a Charger DB in a very, very, very long time. I mean, he made a textbook tackle on Brock Bowers on a third down to force a punt. He had a really, really huge tackle for a loss late in the fourth quarter that brought up a third and long. He had 2 pass deflections on the outside. I mean, he was incredible. He was second in the on the team in tackles with 9, but just in general, he was on an island in the open field a few times, and he won that battle every single time he was one-on-one. I mean, you saw him, it's DB, and then he's going against, there was Brock Bowers at one point, he was going against Jacoby Myers at one point, and both times brought them down in the open field all by himself, where, we saw Derwin, Aston Genty spun out of a tackle from Derwin. We saw Thule miss a tackle. Like there were some missed tackles out there, but when you saw 29 near a guy with a football, that guy is going down. It just felt like he fed off not only Derwin's energy, but it felt like he was a little quiet in game 1, and he coming off just a crazy good rookie year to go out in game 2 and still show like he's growing not only as a defender but as a tackler too in the open field. He was incredible, man. He was so good.
Badman29. So that's my name for him. But
Hmm.
listen, man, the scouting department and Joe Ortiz got one. Like,
Oh my
if it
god.
wasn't evident after the rookie campaign, it should be abundantly clear after
We
last night.
weren't the only ones going, who is this?
No,
Tarheeb
man,
we
I
watched
still
so many
remember.
corners.
Yeah, I still remember going back after they made the pick, and I'm like, oh gosh, I have to go back and rewatch a bunch of tape of this dude in the fifth
Yeah,
round. Is this going to be worth it? But even
right.
his tape showed something that you looked like you could develop, because even on the tape, he looked more just like a almost like a slot hybrid safety type, and he's playing on the outside essentially as your CB1. Like, you can do that with him. The development from the coverage to the improvement, like you mentioned, in the open field tackling, just year over year, because last year was a little spotty. But even
Mhm.
on the college tape at Maryland, the dude showed a nose for the ball and getting down and dirty, whether it was in the run game or making those open field tacklers, sometimes against bigger backs. And I mean, Tarheeb, for some reason, he's listed at like 6'1", whatever. I think he's closer to like 5'11", 6 feet, whatever. He's not a big corner, but he plays much bigger than his size would indicate that he should. And I,
6', 189.
yeah, so he's 6 foot, but for some reason he's listed in other places as 6'1". But whatever, if
Oh,
you want
okay.
to say 6'1", perfectly fine. Make him 6'3", 240. I don't care. He
Right.
plays like a giant.
Mhm.
And there's no fear in him whatsoever. There's something to say about having, well, you've already got Derwin. And if you want to call Derwin your secondary player, cool. Even though he plays closer to the line and he's essentially more like a safety playing nickel. But when we're talking about just true defensive backs, guys that are playing out there at the third level more often than not, you need dogs out there that are willing to just scrap it up with any type of receiver. And Tarheeb has that mentality. I think, again, some of that comes from Derwin, but then there was also those stories about him working out in the offseason with Khalil Mack. It's funny, like, how much centers around Khalil Mack and how big of a deal he is to this team. But
Yeah.
Tarheeb still was already very good as a rookie. He was a standout. We thought he could definitely improve. He's showing like shutdown tendencies
Mhm.
last night. And granted, the Raiders don't have an epic wide receiving core, so he's going to have to take on some bigger challenges as the year goes on. But like you mentioned, you're talking about instances, well, where Derwin had a very good game. Yeah, he did get broken off by Ashton Genty. That's going to happen to a lot of people because the dude has a super low center of gravity. Change of
Oh, yeah.
direction is freaky. But Tarheeb still was in a situation at least twice where if he doesn't make the play, it either pops for a big one or maybe 6. So
Yeah.
when you have that level of confidence in a second-year player like this, and for him to be able to step up and be one of those, I mean, you don't have to say that he's a leader of the secondary, but he puts leader type play on the field. And the dude's got swagger about him too. I like everything about what I'm seeing from this kid in year 2. And I'm not doubting any, well, I didn't really, but if we see one of these random picks in the draft in the 4th or 5th round, we don't understand. This isn't a Tom Telesco situation.
No,
These
no.
guys actually know what it is they're doing. And, I'm going to trust that whoever they select, they're either going to have a plan to come in and contribute right away, which he did along with Cam Hart last year when it wasn't necessarily expected, or it's
Mhm.
going to be a guy that they develop over time. And they've done that with Tarheeb in short order. So everything about last night was tremendous. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the season with the kid.
Yeah. So who else? We talked about Tarheeb, Derwin. Who else
S-
you want to shout out? You
Oh,
said there's a
man.
few.
You know what? There's somebody I'm forgetting here. Oh, yeah. Brandon Staley, you idiot.
Oh. I thought we were talking about
Well,
DBs, but yeah.
no. We can go to the. We can. You want to stick with DBs?
No, no,
Because
no,
I
no,
can't.
no. You called Staley an idiot. I'm not gonna
Well,
slow your roll. Keep
that
going.
could. Well, no. That could apply to multiple areas, but specifically this one player,
Yeah.
Dayon, with the flu game. If he did in fact have the flu, like on Twitter, he says like flu games suck or it's not all it's cracked up to be. I saw something that he posted, so maybe he's just playing on it. We don't really know what the illness was, but man, oh man, oh man. Okay, so it's going to be really hard to get snubbed for league recognition if he keeps up this pace. So, very first play of the game, we're thinking, hey, is this dude even going to be able to make it the entirety of the game? Yeah, first play, Alohi jumps a pass and tips it up in the air.
Yeah.
Dayon comes down with it.
Mhm.
You've got another sack. You've got other PBUs playing in coverage, coming downhill, attacking running backs, Ashton Genty, namely.
Yep.
Just he's not performing like someone who's on the sideline every drive getting oxygen.
Mhm.
The dude looked like he could barely walk when he got off to the side, and he's super
Mm.
jovial. You understand his personality, but you could tell he was really fighting through it, but it did not show up on the field whatsoever. Um, I had really high hopes for this linebacking core. Um, and overall, to this point, collectively as a group, they're playing very well. But Deion Henley is he's on the verge of top 5 linebackers in the league
Mhm.
right now. I don't think that, I'm putting too much on him. I'm heaping too much praise on him whatsoever. The performances are speaking to that. And I know it's only been 2 weeks, but this is carryover from last year.
Mhm.
Again, he didn't get the recognition he deserved then. But it's going to be really hard to not give this man his props when he's doing this on a national stage like what he did in both weeks. We
Yep.
saw the opportunities that he made last week against Patrick Mahomes,
Mhm.
making key tackles in the open field against him. And then you're seeing what he's doing. I mean, what is he operating at like 65, 70% last night? That
Yeah.
looked like, I'm not going to throw a crazy name out there, but just think of guys like Navarro Bowman and the type
Uh-huh.
of play that Navarro Bowman, and that's no disrespect to Navarro because he was a phenomenal linebacker.
Mhm.
That reminded me of Navarro Bowman type play. We're talking about those San Francisco days with both he and Patrick Willis. Navarro Bowman was a very underrated inside linebacker. And, Deion's playing that off ball, but still kind of more that middle role as well. There's nothing he can't do. And when you start looking at the playmakers at every level on this defense, you get extremely excited because some of them are very young and ascending. And if you can get a quarterback in the middle of your defense like a Deion Henley to be a leader, I mean, he is a captain already.
Mhm.
It makes you wonder, like, how is it that this coaching staff can see it and develop it, but the people that drafted him didn't understand it and didn't want to give it an opportunity? I mean, I get it. 3rd round pick, he was raw out of Washington State, but the tools were there. And you're telling me he couldn't beat out Kenneth Murray?
You remember the story, like they had a split in the locker room about who they wanted to draft at that point, which linebacker. You remember all that?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that carried over. And so, but now it's Harbaugh who's spoiled in the riches of Deion Henley because last year he was borderline Pro Bowler and probably could make an argument that he might have deserved it, but the way in which he's playing now is it feels like a jump up from last year, not because he isn't playing as good, because he is, but through 2 weeks again, and like you said, it's still early and it's only 2 weeks, but the plays that he's making in those games are sealing these wins for the Chargers and becoming like staple, like hang your hat on, like this kid isn't just a get a couple tackles for a loss and garbage time, but he tackles Patrick Mahomes and helps seals the game. Last week, he got the sack on Geno Smith on 4th down that should have sealed it. But then again, another thing happened where Raiders got the ball again. But then at the very end, him and Derwin are the ones that are chasing Geno out, and Geno has to get rid of it to actually seal the game so that they can run out the clock and win it. So it's not just making some good plays. It's putting his impact on the game, willing his team to win at the end on defense. He was the leader in tackles for loss. He had 2. He tied team high in pass deflections, in sacks. He was a team leader in tackles. I mean, without Derwin James, Deion Henley's doing it all himself. I mean, granted, like you said, the whole linebacker core is doing awesome, and Troy Dye feels like he's taking a step up too. This linebacking core just feels like they're just flying around right now. But Henley is ahead of that crew, and when Perryman comes back, it's going to be a fun group to add to that group. But Henley was amazing, and he really has put his impact on the game, and the fact that he's able to, put those key plays together to help the team win at the very end, it just feels like he does a couple more of those, and there's no doubt he's going to be a Pro Bowler this year.
Yeah, I just had to jump to linebackers, even though we were in secondary,
It's
because
all right.
every time I see this guy on the field now for the last year and 2 games, I'm just reminded of the stupidity of Brandon Staley. And if you go check out how the Saints performed just this past week against Mac Jones,
Yeah.
then you are reminded that this dude still has no idea what the hell he's doing. So that's their problem. So we can get back to the secondary actually, because I don't want to miss out on giving props to
Go for it.
Tony Jefferson, who for some reason, no matter what, when he's on the field, good things happen.
Man.
You know, we're talking about a guy that's an elder statesman on the team who was out of football for a year. I don't think at that time was even looking to come back, comes to the Chargers, and has been kind of somewhat of a forgotten hero. You know, he bounces back and forth between the practice squad, gets cut, comes back. It's just kind of this offseason game they're playing with the numbers. But I think he knows that this is where he wants to be and that he's appreciated here. It's just they have to do kind of some roster gymnastics to make things work. I'm thankful that he is, because your starting safety, Elijah Moore, I'm not Elijah Moore, that's a wide receiver. Molden, sorry. Elijah Molden, you know, has a hamstring issue that he showed up late on the injury report, was limited and got ruled out. And then, you know, lo and behold, you got this freak hanging out that you can just call up from the practice squad, make him active. And what does he do? Comes in and gets an interception before halftime to continue to demoralize the Raiders. And, you know, he doesn't play like an older player. The thing about it is, like, he's got all of the knowledge of the system. He understands it from having played in it, from having played in Baltimore. He knows about positioning and angles. Where he may be lacking in athleticism, which, to be completely honest with you, I haven't seen either, he makes up for in just savvy and know-how. And so he's always in the right place at the right time. Things like that are invaluable, because not only can he provide that to you with play on the field, but he can share that knowledge with the other players. When you look at guys like I mentioned, Alohi Gilman, to start the game off, Alohi came ready play one. From the very first snap, and caused an immediate turnover that kind of initiated the run that the Chargers went on. Now, granted, we can talk about offense. It didn't start off the greatest, but you got the momentum going in your favor. This is an away game, and you took the air out of the building in the first play. Another guy that's not getting a whole lot of attention, but has played very well in the first two games, Dante Jackson. Got to call it out. I don't think anyone knew what to expect from him, but this is the ideal system for Jackson to play in, because he's extremely athletic, very fast, and quick. And because the Chargers play so much zone, he gets to play watching everything in front of him, and he can read and react. But if a guy does get on his heels and he has to, like, turn and run and be in phase, it's going to be very hard to outrun him. So the system fits him very well. He's very instinctive. And he's a playmaker. Got to get him to haul in a couple of these balls that hit him in the hands for picks. But I mean, the one that he made in the end zone, definitely, you know, we'll take that. But collectively, the group of guys that have been assembled in this secondary, the linebacking core, some of these cast-offs on the defensive line, they've put together a team. And what they understand is it's not always about having, like, premier top tier talent. It's about who fits the system best. And they're just picking the right guys.
Yeah, it feels like this feels just like the Christian Fulton signing. Like, Christian Fulton had a year or two, some injuries, kind of fallen off, you know, lost favor with his team. Chargers basically just pick him up as a low-end free agency signing, and then it becomes, you know, CB1 for most of the year, kind of fell off towards the end there. But solid production from a Christian Fulton, more than anybody expected. And then now, same thing, it feels like with Dante Jackson, where, you know, not a name that, you know, was very coveted in free agency, and Chargers get him. You think, you know, he's the corner depth, and now it's just like, they have a system where you can just plug and play guys, and they don't need to be Jalen Ramsey. You can just drop anybody in there, and they're going to play within phase, and they're going to be able to be a cog in this wheel of Jesse Minter's defense. So it's pretty awesome that they got a guy like Dante Jackson, who not only we got the interception, but we saw a really awesome PBU on a third down pass late in the fourth quarter too. Making plays on the football. He did it last week, did it again today, got the pick. Yes, we would have liked for him to get maybe one or two more that hit him in the hands, but, you know, for what he's done so far, he's been very good. And this defense as a whole has been very, very impressive. We saw, you know, Tony Jefferson gets an interception, huge. Derwin James still playing good. We saw Dante Jackson play well. A lot of the big guys up front who aren't really like household names at all, those big beefy dudes in the middle getting it done as well. They had nothing on the ground going. The Raiders did, especially with Genti, who, I mean, I don't know why they're not feeding the ball more, but that's their problem, not mine. But with Genti only having 43 yards, I don't think they gave up over 70 yards rushing total on Monday. It was a pretty nice showing from the guys in the middle. Jamari Caldwell got a big sack on a third down in the red zone, which forced a field goal. There was a lot of guys. Hand got a pretty good run stop, got pass deflection as well. And then we saw, gosh, now I'm losing his name.
Naquan Jones?
No, not Jones. Our dude,
T.R. Tart.
T.R. Tart getting a little extra handsy to Gino's head play too.
Is that a thing?
I don't know. It's 2 games in a row now. He's just gotten a little extracurricular.
He's playing it fast and loose, man. It's going to bite him at some point. He's got to chill out.
I know. It hasn't hurt him in 2 games, but that hands to the head, I feel like that should have been a penalty. But for now, he's got to just let all that go.
Just something about that dude's paws and players' helmets.
And I do want to say Jamari Caldwell had a hell of a game. He was in on the quarterback a lot, taking on double teams, really pushing the pocket on Gino on Monday.
So the reason why I called Naquan Jones out is because he popped out a few times last night. I think he had a batted pass. There was one play in the second quarter with he and Deion Henley where they stoned his inside run attempt on third down, like shot the gap. Jones beats his man and then Deion just flushes in directly behind him and they destroy the third down attempt there. And he flashed on at least 3 separate occasions. The really encouraging part about that is that every week can be somebody else on the interior. And that is an amazing thing to say. And again, it's just a collection of players that fit the scheme. It could be Deshaun Hand. It could be Naquan Jones. It could be T.R. Tart. The concern was Poona Ford leaving. And to be completely honest, can you say that we've missed him in the first 2 games?
No.
And that's no disrespect to him at all. It's just that these coaches, the staff in general, the scouts, they understand the types of players that fit this scheme. And while they may not be good fits for other teams, or they may be being underutilized elsewhere, the Chargers know how to get them in and have them fit their roles. If you can go 3 to 4 deep on the interior of your defensive line without really any drop off, you are cooking with gas. Because if this is a trench game, and, offensive linemen are really difficult to come by, like really competent, quality offensive linemen. That's not an everyday thing. On the other side of the ball, if you can find a way to get multiple defensive linemen that can contribute and stay fresh throughout a game, you can make life hell on offenses. Because while they're down to their, 4, 5 guys, you've got 3, 4 that you can rotate however you want throughout drives. You can line them up in different packages. You can get your edge rushers on the inside, NASCAR packages and additional edge rushers to give those defensive linemen a break on obvious passing downs. You can do things like, I think they lined up Justin Aboigbe on the edge at one point, which, I wouldn't recommend, but it didn't look terrible. You just have the ability to utilize these guys in fashions that maybe other teams don't think they can. They don't think they have the ability to, or they just don't have the scheme to make it work. But collectively, the strength of the Chargers right now, if we're being completely honest, the edge room is probably the weakest part of it.
Yeah.
Like secondary wise,
secondary
wise, they seem pretty solid. Cam Hart, I got my eye on you though. It's been a really weird first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But we'll see where that goes.
He got really grabby yesterday.
Second level, even with the injuries, you've got, your linebackers are still showing up here the first 2 weeks. Guys getting in play that, like Troy Dye, that we didn't think would get this many reps, but are. And then, like I said, your defensive linemen, man, all these guys are showing up. So collectively, this defense is humming, and it looks like it might actually be better than last year's.
Yeah, it's again, it's early in the season, but it does feel like when we're panicking that the Chargers do not have the interior defensive line that we think they should, letting Poona Ford walk was a pretty big deal in our collective worlds. But in theirs, it feels like they're pretty confident that they have a plug and play type defense where they can bring in different pieces and they can replace that production. And I don't think anybody's looking at Naquan Jones or Tier Tart and thinking, they're a 1-for-1 fit for a Puna Ford. But we're now 2 weeks in, and like you said, nobody's missing Puna at the moment. They're doing an excellent job up front.
But keep in mind, even Puna wasn't Puna before last season because he bounced around. Yeah, it was free agent, was on a couple practice squads. It's just, I'm not going to say it's just the system. It's that the Chargers know the players that fit it and they use them appropriately. So even though they absolutely wanted Puna back and they made that known, I think Harbaugh voiced it himself, like they absolutely wanted him to have him go across to the hallway to the Rams sucked. But you're not missing a beat. And that says a lot. And while we're doing this, Jesse Mentor, please don't go.
Yeah, he's going to be a head coach in no time, man.
Oh, man. My dream is for him to stick around and see this thing through with Harbaugh. Harbaugh retires and hands the reins off to him. I know that's kind of pie in the sky, but, man, the fact that he didn't get any interviews in that last cycle is crazy to me. That's not going to be a thing this time around.
No. So just while we wrap up, put a little bow on this defense. Chargers got 3 interceptions. It resulted in another career high for Geno Smith, which he's done for the 5th time. All we heard about was Geno Smith was always making the smart throws, didn't gamble a lot. Somehow, some way, Chargers got 3 interceptions on the day. They had 8 players with 2 or more, at least 2, or exactly 2 PBUs on the day. They had 8 PBUs total, 8 different players with PBUs. 7 of them had 2. So you had 7 different players on the Chargers defense with 2 pass breakups. And the Raiders averaged 3.4 yards per play against the Chargers. That's the 4th lowest of any offense in a game this season. They were absolutely cooking last night.
So wasn't there also the stat that they held Geno to 0 for 10 on passes over 10 yards?
Is that right? I didn't see it.
There's something crazy. There's some sort of wild stat. Well, no, I feel like there was a pass that was completed that was at least 15 or so yards. I don't know. It was some sort of crazy stat. As far as him going over for a certain number of completions at a specific.
Three passes over 10 yards.
Yeah, so was so I got that stat wrong, but there was definitely something where he went over. I can't remember what the yardage was. Maybe was it beyond 15? I don't know. But anyway, the defense single-handedly made Geno Smith the league leader in interceptions after one game. And
crazy.
What's amazing to me is it's almost like the secondary, specifically in the secondary, but the defense as a whole, it looked like the Chargers were playing with 12 men on the field because every ball that went to the 3rd level, 0 passes over 10 plus air yards.
Yeah. So
so catch and run.
Thornton and Dylan Loeb each had catches under 10 air yards and took it for
catch and runs. Okay. I knew it was something like that.
Yeah.
But I was saying it looked like the Chargers were playing with 12 men on the field because every time any ball went into the 3rd level to speak to the air yard stat, Geno had to be seeing lightning bolts and blue britches, like 2 of them everywhere he threw the ball. Like there was almost no one singled up. Every pass was a tough one. And because he had such a hard time completing balls, whenever there was a guy that was open, he was overshooting them just because he was super unsteady in the pocket and the Chargers got him to run around a little bit. There was a little bit of pressure there as well. So just collectively fantastic job from a defensive standpoint, especially coming off of his offensive production against, I get it. It was the Patriots, but still, he was able to put up some pretty good numbers week 1.
Yeah, he was. Okay, so enough to get Raider fans pretty confident going into that matchup, man.
Gotta love it.
So many Geno greater than Herbert tweets. It was wild. But anyway, they got to see in real time that is not true. So offensively, it doesn't feel like there's a ton to cover here. But we saw Herbert throw for almost 250. He had 2 touchdowns. Quentin Johnston, had 71 yards and a touchdown. Beautiful play by him. It felt like early on they wanted to force feed QJ, which I just didn't love, and I never really liked that. It feels like if you can get Keenan and Ladd going in this offense, QJ will come later. And it felt like that's what ended up happening with that touchdown. But when you try to force the ball to QJ early and I don't even know, set a tone that you're going to get him involved, I'm not really even sure. But regardless, once the offense settled in and QJ got going and Ladd got his, it felt like then it just opened up QJ down the field. And, when they needed a score, they did. They got 20. It felt like they probably could have put up 30. On Monday, but for the most part, a solid game. We're gonna have to talk about the run game in a little bit, but solid game from Herbert.
I want to say that the whole QJ thing, I feel like, is like a confidence thing with him. Like they want to get him going early, and so they target him just to try to get him warmed up. And thing about this week is Roman didn't exactly go about that the same way he did last week early on, like with the go ball that wound up a contested attempt that was incomplete. Like we should know better to stop doing that. That's not what he does. But I mean, I digress. I mean,
and
he makes it.
I can't believe that an NFL wide receiver does not try to work back towards the ball when that ball's up in the air like that. I mean, it is so easy to get that call probably half the time that happens, but he just stops his feet, jumps up in the air, overruns the ball. There's just no real effort to work back towards the ball. But anyway,
he doesn't really attack it in the air at all. He kind of like does the cradling thing where he waits for the ball to come to him, and in contested situations, you can't do that. You have to fight for the ball. You have to try to fight through contact, and that's how you get those calls. But that's never really been his game.
Yeah.
He makes that huge. I don't want to bag on him because the kid had a really good overall game. He makes that huge 60-yard TD tracking and hauling it in over the half shoulder on that ball from Herbert that was on sort of like a Poco route. So Poco's like post kind of issues, like a crosser converted into a corner. But Herbert just put that ball in a perfect spot and let QJ adjust and get it. Keenan Allen is freaking timeless. There's literally nothing else that you can say about it. It just works, and Herbert trusts him. And it's another invaluable player to have on your team. Keenan makes it so like Ladd at times I forgot was even there, which is strange because he's also automatic over the middle. And you look at how much they leaned on Ladd last year, and now he almost comes across as complimentary. Like he doesn't have a touchdown yet, but it's fine. Like whenever you need to continue to move the chains, you can almost count on Ladd absolutely being open and being able to do that for you. I think the Chargers on offense, we're talking about this like overarching theme. They're doing like their best greatest show on turf impression because they only had 26 total rushing attempts, and 16 of those carries came by way of Marion Hampton and Najee Harris. 8 apiece, and that's it. The first run didn't come until the third drive, and it was Najee Harris. Amari Hampton essentially served as like an extra lineman for the majority of the game, but the kid's blitz pickup is tremendous. I mean, he's got to work on some other things. He's got the fumbling that happened. They attributed it to Herbert for some reason, but however they want to draw that stat up or they want to track that. But Hampton, I mean, he had a few good runs, but I just need more. Like he needs more volume. But even with that said, man, Najee Harris looked good on his carries. Even when things weren't blocked up perfectly, he was still able to like move the pile, create yards after contact. He looks like he's raring to go. So I'm super excited about the potential of this run game. It's just really weird that like you look at this in totality, the pass protection through 2 games has been tremendous. Like you would have never gotten me to believe that through 2 weeks, this would be like a run first team who hasn't figured out the running game yet. And again, reminder, we're talking about a team that's coached by Jim Harbaugh with Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator. And again, for 2 weeks, they've got 61 passing attempts to just 51 rushing. Like what? And so again, they're doing something that I don't think anyone expected, but they've got to get that running game going at some point because as much as the passing protection is holding up across the board, I don't want to put Herbert at risk that much on dropbacks. They got to make the defenses respect the running game, and it'll make Herbert even more effective. It's worked these first 2 games, but I really need to see that running game get going. And really, it's about the offensive line. They've done great in pass protection, below average run blocking.
Yeah, agreed. there has to be, and I get it. I mean, it just feels like Roman's going against the grain a little bit, and he's not. Now we're asking him to run the ball more, but it does. The fact that Herbert was the leading rusher and he only had 31 yards is troubling, and you're not going to win a lot of football games like that. But you'd love to see a little bit more of a balanced attack. But it just felt like Justin Herbert didn't have to do a lot. They defensively, the Raiders could not get anything going, and even after the fumble and they get the ball back and they're across the 50, it just felt like the Raiders could not do anything. But Najee Harris did feel like the hot hand, and even before the fumble, when they got like a fourth down and short, Najee was the guy, or a third down and short, Najee was the guy who was going to get it across and get a first down. So it feels like it might be one of those offenses where they're going to just kind of ride the hot hand, whether it's Hampton or Najee, and they'll give each other some volume, but whoever's performing better is going to get that those opportunities. And it does, I love, by the way, I love Ladd McConkey's just football IQ, his ability to just get a catch anywhere and make that loop and get that positive yard every single time. It just feels like he's a walking first down. Like, give him a 5-yard catch, he's going to turn into 10, 11 to 12 yards every single time. And it was nice to see Trey Harris get involved, but I do want to say the run blocking has been an issue for 2 weeks. And it doesn't feel like Najee or Hampton are going to be able to get going behind that line unless they can improve. I do want to shout out Trey Pipkins, because we all thought once Slater went down, this offensive line was going to fall apart. We saw Max Crosby basically be non-existent throughout the entire game. His one tackle for a loss was against Will Dissly. It was late in that fourth quarter when the Chargers were trying to run out the clock at that point anyway. There wasn't a lot of pressure on Herbert. There were 2 sacks. One of them was a run out where Herbert slid. It just felt like they have been pretty good across the board. No complaints from Zion last night. Bozeman was fine. Pipkins did his damnedest to make sure Crosby didn't have a night, and he didn't, thank God, because in the past he has. And I do want to say, like, it just feels like right now they've got this 3-headed monster a little bit through 2 weeks. We have Keenan Allen, who's had 12 receptions, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns. Johnston has 9 receptions, 150 yards, and 3 touchdowns. McConkey, 11 receptions, 122 yards. I mean, to have 3 receivers over 120 yards through 2 games is pretty impressive. And right now, I would like for them to focus on getting Keenan and Ladd involved early, and then letting QJ fall behind later. Not fall behind, but get his a little bit later when that attention starts to go to Keenan and Ladd. But like you said, I mean, Keenan just feels like he's an automatic, and he had the mic'd up where he was just like, if we need a first down, just get me the freaking ball. And they did on a 4th down. And it was pretty nice to see these 3 working so far through these 2 weeks.
Okay, so one thing about Max Crosby, I don't want to not give him any credit or shortchange him. He didn't get anything going as a pass rusher, but he was hell against the run. Like, he crossed the faces of your tight ends multiple times. Trey Pipkins too, on a couple times, crashing off of the edge to like get some runs. He chased some backside, on that. It was like a goal line attempt. The Chargers didn't go for it on 4th down. Ended up kicking the field goal. I can't remember which possession that was, but just a part of them crashing down on the edges and collapsing it so that the Chargers couldn't get that surge, initial surge before the backs could get going. But he did a great job in the run game. What I need verified is that I saw that Trey Pipkins gave up 0 pressure to Max Crosby, and you know what?
Oh,
I don't believe you. I don't know where that came from. I'm going to go back and rewatch, because if that's true, the only way that happened is if that dude gathered all of the Dragon Balls pregame and used his one wish from Shinran for like elite pass protection for one game. I do not believe he didn't yield 1 pressure to Max Crosby. It sounds cool, and if it's true, then I will admit to being wrong about it. I just don't believe it. But anyway, offensive line held up very, very well in pass protection, as I said, as we've both spoken to for 2 weeks in a row. But yeah, the the running game has to get going. That's supposed to be the bedrock of this team. And to this point, it doesn't look much better than last season. The only difference is you've got two guys that are really difficult to bring down.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I know we're wrapping up here. Cal Slime said, agree to ban the Davis Hampton triple option play with Herbert. They weren't physical enough to successfully run that play. Yeah, that fourth down sweep was not a good look.
Greg Roman
That
gets too much dip on
timing,
his chip, man. He's got to chill out. He's getting too cute.
Yeah, way too cute. Timing was off. They couldn't get anything going on the ground anyway at that point. I mean, it didn't make sense. But what we do need to talk about is, and we'll kind of make it quick here, but Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack goes down. We don't know the extent of the injury. The pass rush after he went down was absolutely nothing. If it didn't come from Henley or James, we did not see anything from Caleb Murphy. Dupree could not get much going. We saw Thule in the backfield. Got a tackle for a loss, but not a ton of pressures on the quarterback. Got some pass deflections, but man, they have got to get something going.
See, this is why I don't pay attention to these stats that come out like pressures, because I don't know what constitutes a pressure. Because I saw somewhere that Thule had like 5 or 6. And I'm like, okay, so what qualifies as a pressure? Because collectively, they said the Chargers had over like 14, 15 for the game. And I'm just trying to figure out where that was. Like, if your backing coverage is so good that the quarterback has to hold the ball for like 3+ seconds and then has to run around, because I mean, you can't expect offensive linemen to hold up for that long. Then when he's like on his horse and linemen have to chase him, is that then considered a pressure? Because I don't see all these pressures that have been tallied up in certain places, and I won't mention one place that collects data that people tend to lean on. But again, I hope that the Khalil Mack injury looked really, really bad. He seemed like he was primed to have a very, very good game. He had already had 1 sack before he went down. If he's out for any significant period of time, you can't roll with what you currently have.
He will be. It just feels, I mean, it was in a sling. It was hanging. We have no idea the extent of it, but
I'm surprised we haven't heard anything yet. I'm not saying that gives me a ton of hope. I mean, I'm fingers crossed that it's not a season-ending situation, but it seems like something is going to keep him out at least a while. I mean, like several weeks. If that's the case, again, you can't just lean on what you have. I haven't looked at the schedule for all the upcoming games. Like next week against the Broncos, you get them at home. You've got a quarterback who likes to run around and move around in the pocket. You got to have some athleticism. I mean, Khalil wasn't the swiftest of guys now. I mean, he's a little bit older, a little longer in the tooth, so not as explosive as he used to be, but he's still powerful off the edge and can collapse a pocket that way. They've got to find some way to either circumvent this or get a complementary piece. Or they've got to be willing to come up off of maybe even some draft capital. I know that they like to hold on to their draft picks and comp picks and all that jazz, but you've got a team that's 2-0 right now that's sitting at the top of the division. You don't want to give up any ground if you can. I mean, if you can avoid it. So just hopeful to keep this run going. But whatever's going on with Khalil, I'm guessing is probably going to take him out for a bit. But however that goes, Ortiz, I hope you're on the horn getting something done right now, looking into it at least.
Yeah, if we're talking 4 weeks, I think as Hannon Derry was saying, there's a lot of scheme open type business where, Caldwell got a sack because Thule was in there and Mac was because of DJ. Absolutely. You can do that. You can hold on for a couple weeks. But if we're talking, till the playoffs, you're going to have to do something because there's just not enough juice on that edge. And we were saying they were a Mac injury away from being in real trouble. So it'll depend on how long the injury is and how long Mac will be out, but it just feels like they're going to have to make a call and get some kind of pressure off that edge because they will not have it. And the 3 that they have now are just not going to cut it going forward. And
you could be asking a lot of your secondary.
Yep. You sure are. But, hopefully they won't be making those calls. Hopefully they will get the run game going. But outside of that, a 20-9 win, getting some big divisional wins. If they can win against Denver at home, they got a pretty strong stranglehold on that AFC West if they can get a win here. So it'd be huge and it'll be a very, very important game coming up in this coming weekend. So hopefully they get the win. But great performance from the Chargers in Vegas on the road in prime time. Great defensive performance. Herbert did enough to get the win. And that is all for us. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Like, share, sub, hype,
Yep.
I think is the thing too. Yeah, all that.
I think so.
Salute.
Yeah. Do it all. Salute. See you guys.